Okay, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And it's fucking Friday again, so let's get rolling. First up is Rudy.
It's Friday.
Rudy, do you want me to put the link in the chat here, or is some of this like...
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's the game isn't linked in here, so it's just
Roger.
fucking whatever. This is just some poetry from the game. This is poetry about Lifesaver, who's a superhero who cuts apostates in half with a glowing sword made of the souls of aborted fetuses. That's all I'm gonna say, pretty much. I asked trolls if you need to troll, keep the slurs to homophobic and racial only, please.
Wait, what's the alternative?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Well, I guess transphobic, right? So no
transphobic, yeah.
transphobic slurs, okay.
Certainly no slurs about mental illness, because these are very serious poems about mental illness.
Okay, all right, okay. Sorry,
So
man.
yeah, these are these are poems from Tamsin's the Gospel of Tamsin, which may have been scrawled on toilet paper or some napkins in a mental health facility where she was being held. Oops, I should probably turn my my Winamp off. Ooh. Book of Glowies. Glowies, chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. Verse 1. He glows and is not from a 3-letter agency. He sees into my heart without infrared. He gazes without palantir or threat of bodily harm. He holds my hands and is not zip ties. He is not a nigger. He is ever living, but is no mummy. He strikes surgically without drones. Obama. He is worthy of all praise. Book of Glowies. Glowies, chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. Verse 4. In a universe of gay cat pictures, he is dog. He prints souls in 3D. He goes burr. He programs like a white man. He programs white men. He programs everyone. Everyone is programmed by state. State machine. He stays hidden. Clever girl. He runs programs. He runs programs. He is viral at zero engagement. He glows. He glows. He. Well, yeah, just readjust my thing here. Book of Glowies. Glowies, chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. Verse 1. He is homeless in Graceland. He is the homeless in the California forgotten capital where people shit on the sidewalk. Got brown materia. He strides across anti-homeless architecture. He sleeps through segmented benches. Verse 2. He frees customer-only bathrooms. He is wireless. He finds veins even under blue lights. He is not the CIA. He is not the NSA. He is. Book of Plagues. Plagues, chapter 5, verses 1 through 3. Verse 1. Woe unto the administrators of Kentucky State Hospital. Woe unto its endless wards that occupy distinct memory positions. Woe unto its staff who do Moses every day with no love behind their gestures. Kentucky, verse 2, Kentucky State Hospital is affliction. Man is afflicted. Man with affliction t-shirt shaking violently. A baby. Verse 3, hospital footage Dropbox and clandestinely monetized. Residuals from residual schizophrenia. Book of Lists, chapter 1, verses 1 through 2. Verse 1. 2 black and white movies. CD with the song Dead Man's Curve. Teen Idol memorabilia. 2 or 3 obituaries. 1 halo per idol or haloperidol. Sneakers. Belt. Verse 2, multivitamin, soda, prescriptions, tampons, grapefruit juice. Redacted verse, Milton Derry, Quentin Russo, Quavius French, Nolita French, Cindy McMahon, James Lagrange, redacted, Samantha Lopez, Batman Ben Superman, Tamsin Snyder, Roger Kamen, Larson Johnson, Christian Rogers. Book of Overtures, chapter 7, verses 1 through 3. Verse 1, 1812. Verse 2, here, let it be known that at 3:17 a.m., John sent text to Tamsin, claims of sorry, claims of shared grief, claims of your friend has sent you gems, touch to claim. Mostly an overture lacking a defense, but with a foreground in Napoleon. Verse 3, apologies about impotence. Sorry for party rocking. Rock, what's the matter with you, Rock? Sorry. Book of Powers, chapter 1, verse 1. Verse 1, in the beginning, there was someone other than you. He was and is the source of all power. Creation. He is metaphor. He is simile. Smile. He is everywhere. He is the weapon of the righteous, sharpened by the apostate, tempered by the institution. He is not listening when you say goodbye. You of pity. You of giving up. You last. And that's it.
I like the image that you've embedded in here, man.
Yeah, the joy, right? I mean, Jesus
Joy,
first,
yeah.
other second, you last.
That was a nice touch. Now, man, I love what you've done with the format here, with the like faux gospel, faux like biblical format. I especially
Right,
like
I'm gonna
the
go
book
next.
of-
I'm gonna go next.
No, you're going to go. I put you at the bottom of the list. You're gonna
You
wait
last.
for
I'm
if you're still here, after everyone else is read, you will get to read. But no, man, I especially like the book of lists. I like the way you play with like the fact that there are literally like these books in the Bible. Like, I don't know if it's fucking Numbers or what, or these like those long genealogies in Genesis or at the beginning of the Gospels, right? That are just lists of names. You know, Sheba begat Hosheba,
I'm
begat
gonna go
this,
now. I'm gonna
begat
go now.
that. Okay.
As the wind crashes, while I'm fixing.
Okay. He's not gonna get to
First,
read now. I gave him a
no.
shot. You don't get.
He had his chance to slur while I was
He had his shot. He had his shot. He should have been patient. These fucking kids today.
Fucking
kids
Zoomers, man.
You know what? I can understand wanting attention, but you know what? You grow up, you learn, you wait for attention.
He had us right where he wanted, and he had no patience. It's like this kid's got no fucking patience these days.
Right? Although, granted, in my day, I would not have had the patience to even attend a fucking Zoom reading, I guess, when I was 14 or 15 years old. He's back in the fucking waiting room now. Sorry, Steve.
Gonna wait in limbo for all time.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Anyway, Rudy, like I was saying, I really like what you've done here to like merge the schizophrenic ramblings with like the gospel, the biblical format. And I especially like how the book of lists, where it's like, oh, this is like some shit she basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but some shit that she basically took from the records at the mental hospital, right? It's like a list of the items that they confiscated when they locked her up, and then the redacted list is like a list of other patients that are there with her. Am I right about that?
Oh yeah, I've seen like people with powers or whatever that maybe come into them. that
Oh,
facility, whatever.
like the other people who have been imprisoned in like the
The superhero jail. or whatever.
yeah, right, like the
Yeah.
plastic cube that they put
Yeah.
Magneto in.
Yeah.
By the way, this is a
Mhm.
complete non sequitur, but why don't they just like start like holding actual chess matches in that plastic tube that Magneto was in? That feels
That's
like
a
it
good
would
point.
solve all of the problems with the current chess conflict. Just literally just put them all in a plastic cube. He even had a plastic chessboard in there. I feel like. Anyway, man.
But yeah,
No, this is great. I really like what you've done with the format here. And I really like how carefully it treads the line between like it never ceases to feel like it could be a book of the Bible, and it also never ceases to feel like it could be the ramblings of a schizophrenic, which make of that what you will. But yeah,
fair
man.
enough. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's from a game that I just got accepted to Void for, so it should be out shortly.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Do you know what the release date is going to be for that?
I think it's October 15th. I think Void for yeah,
So in a couple weeks then.
a couple weeks it'll be out. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, when the game is out, maybe you can take that for a test drive here as well.
Yeah.
So as not to, I suppose we might as well give Katie
Oh yeah. I don't want to play it on
her exclusivity or whatever.
The game is actually only like 5 minutes long, so I don't want to spoil like the endings and shit. So you can get an ending in 5 minutes. So
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, man.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but I'm gonna have to go now because I'm gonna go play Fortnite with all my friends. So thank you very
Okay.
much.
Have
well,
fun,
Thank you very
Sean.
much,
take it
Have
easy,
My
fun.
Sean.
pleasure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye.
And so polite. What the fuck?
Wait, was he just he's gonna go play Fallout 76 with his friends?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, I heard
It's a strong
Fortnite, but maybe
admission.
I'm just programmed to hear Fortnite when a kid is doing it.
I heard Fallout. And I was like, man, that's weird thing to admit that you play that game.
Rip. Yeah. And for a Zoomer, that's embarrassing. Christ.
No.
Yeah. All right. Keith is up next.
Thanks, Lee. So I have some kids' stories tonight for my sermon. I'm going to, so what I'm going to read tonight is one of the few stories I've written in the first person. And it's an experiment in writing autobiographical stories. It's not autofiction. It's most definitely not transgressive. It's titled Moultrie, Georgia, Home of the Packers. Introduction. For about 4 years in the first decade of my life, I lived in a small South Georgia town about 40 miles from the Florida line. Moultrie's main industry was a meat packing plant. The high school football team was called the Packers. It was considered one of the best teams in the state. I think that we moved away from Moultrie when I was about 9 years old, at the end of the third grade. Moultrie stories. I remember the summer evening that I lay dying beside the street, my body prone against the curb. My two friends were running across the park towards me. I could hear their screaming voices getting closer. A car stopped in the street. A man jumped out to help me. I was shocked, but not in shock. I was going to learn another lesson in life. Melanie and Mark were my friends, brother and sister. They may or may not have been twins. I just know that they were my playmates. They were my neighbors, my closest friends. If we weren't the same age, we were very close. Sometimes we all played together, other times just two of us. But one thing was for certain, we played a lot outdoors. There was not much else to do when you're 7 years old in a time of 1 a.m. radio station and 3 TV stations. Besides, there was nothing on the idiot box worth watching until Saturday morning cartoons and the Three Stooges. And I could only read so much and play by myself indoors. So usually I only stayed in the house when it was raining. And even then I became bored quickly. I was essentially an only child. My baby sister was 5 years younger, and I didn't have, nor did I ever get, the brother I always wanted. Furthermore, back in those days, the parents didn't entertain the kids. Find something to do was the mantra. If you needed something to do, go straighten up and clean your room. That was an open invitation to get out of the house. Before I lay dying beside the street, and before we moved across the street from Melanie and Mark, I almost died playing a game. Mom, my stepdad, my baby sister, and I lived in a house out in the country. It was on a long, dusty dirt road. It was a wooden house with a covered front porch with a gray painted floor. Not far from the house was an old wooden shed, and in it, a broken refrigerator. I guess it was broken. It was never cold, and all the shelves were gone. I don't remember who I played with or much else about the time when we lived in that old house, but I remember the game. It was hide and seek, and I had a great hiding place, the refrigerator. I had to have been pretty small to hide in it, and I remember pulling the door closed. I would never be found. I remember the darkness, but I wasn't scared because I was a brave little boy. I do remember my fear, though, like it is still happening. I wasn't found in the game. I knew that because I'd been in the refrigerator for too long. I can still feel the panic and fear in my body when I was trying to get out of the refrigerator. I was going to brag to whoever I was playing with about my great hiding spot, but of course the door wouldn't open. It was the type that latched shut, but I didn't know anything about that at the time. At some point I realized that I was trapped and I yelled, then screamed. I do remember that. And I do remember seeing the light of day as the door was opened and I was freed. I blocked out what happened next, and I'm not going to make something up just for a story. I think I have a good idea, but I'm not going to theorize. I do know that I never ever played in a refrigerator again, and I carried that life lesson to freezers and anything else that I could possibly get trapped inside of. Now that I think about it, that may explain why that Edgar Allan Poe story about being buried alive terrified me so much, and why to this day, when I read or hear stories about cars going off bridges or watch movies like Das Boot, I get chills and feel uneasy. We are all a product of our experiences. So, Melanie and Mark had just tossed their spears at me. Fresh bamboo we had chopped down from along the bank of the ditch. Our shields were our garbage can lids, thick aluminum, I think, and with a good strong handle. I hadn't got my shield up in time, mainly because I was running with my back to them. I always thought that I was faster than a speeding bamboo spear. I felt the jab in my lower back, nothing to deflect or protect me. As usual, I was shirtless and barefoot. I only had on a pair of shorts. By the rules, I fell in my tracks and rolled over the curb into the edge of the street. I was dead. Fortunately, there wasn't usually much traffic in this suburban neighborhood, and what traffic there was always went slow. The oval park was shaped by the loop road that created it. Only on one side was the road a throughway. That was the side I fell on and feigned my death. I didn't even see or hear the car coming. I laid there for what seemed like an eternity. I was a great actor. I didn't come back to life until I heard a car stop and a door open. Melanie and Mark were nowhere to be heard. In fear for my life, I continued to play possum. I came to life when I heard a man's voice, harsh and mean sounding. He was angry, and he was using words that I'd never heard, but I clearly recognized the tone. I was no longer a possum, though I wished I was. He scolded me for my actions, and like the refrigerator experience, I blocked out what he was saying, but not until I'd heard enough to learn my lesson. In a humble manner, I picked up my garbage can lid and the bamboo spears nearby. In shame, I started walking slowly across the park towards my house. I think that I remember seeing the backsides of Melanie and Mark at the other end of the park headed towards their house. It was getting dark, and I figured it was time to get on home in time for supper, else I'd be in more trouble. The game was over. I never told anyone else this story. Mark and Melanie and I always kept it to ourselves. But many years later, as my sons approached that age of first independence, I did find a way to teach them the lessons that I had learned. But like with all kids, you can preach and teach, but the kids, and later as teens and grown-ups, have to learn the lessons on their own. We are all still learning lessons. It seems that some things never change in life. And now, after all these years, it feels like writing about experiences, both past ones and present ones, helps bring things into focus. I think that I may be seeing some things better now. Maybe one part of our vision does improve with age. I don't know. It's just a thought. That's it.
Keith, that was awesome as usual. And as usual, I love the way that you I'm trying to think of the word. Like I love the way you handle like metafictional stuff, like the edges between the fiction and the reality, even though I know this is autobiographical, still the way you handle the edges between the narrative and reality. Like there's that moment where you say, and I'm not going to make something up just for a story, which is so good because first of all, it lends a kind of authenticity to everything around it, right? But also because like it's so good at drawing attention to the fact that like so much of even the narratives in our memory, the stories we tell ourselves confidently about the shit that happened to us, how much of that is just flat out fabricated, right? It's just like just based on assumption and presumption and fiction. And so that's very good. And man, the shit with the refrigerator is terrifying. I so I grew up at a time, I think, where those kind of refrigerators no longer existed, but where my parents knew that they did. And so they had a phobia of them. So I don't know how many times as a kid I was told, never crawl inside a refrigerator, which I mean, they could have given me more practical advice. I kind of wish, like, of all of the shit for my parents to become fixated on. I mean, there's some other shit they could have drilled into my head that I really could have used. But I remember them saying, like, never crawl inside a refrigerator. And the way it's presented here, man, that's fucking terrifying, right? There's like some like probably because it's so similar to, as like you intimated, to being buried alive, right? That there's something there that like latches on to real like deep-seated human horror. And no, Keith, as usual, this is really good stuff.
Thanks,
Just
William. I
to
appreciate it.
reiterate what Mike said, which I agree 100% with. He said he wishes he could have your voice on his GPS, and I do too. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks. Appreciate it. That was my first experiment in autobiographical writing. I thought it might be more interesting to me than to others. I wasn't sure.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good as usual. Yeah. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks.
And Michael's up next.
Cool. Yeah, I keep going back and forth over whether I should read like something. Yeah, I'll read this. So this is a poem that was published in like a small, like kind of like one-time literary mag back in 2011, I think is when this came out. I haven't looked at this in like well over a decade. I don't think this poem makes any sense. But I smoked a lot of weed back then, so that's probably why. So I'm just gonna read it, and yeah, hopefully people like it. I remember being part of one of these sections. The rest I do not know. So it's called Self-Portrait Before the Age of 23. I never read this one aloud. I don't think I've ever shared this one. It's as if the sky is living in expectation of the arrival of a rose-lined sun. The way the deep blue slowly brightens behind the blackened outlines of dead trees, a sleeping house away from my window. I don't know what kinds of trees they are because even when I was 6 and streaking my shoes in mosquito bogs, their faces were gray, smooth, and lifeless across water too deep and yellow to grasp. I haven't been close to them in years. There are grapes that make your nose burn because they smell so alive, now braiding the red flower bushes we tore apart to climb inside. 2. I'm painting the self-portrait before sunrise, but I don't know which colors to mix. Looking to the sky for something to make my gesture symbolic, I churn the pinks and yellows with the tip of my thumb against an old brass plate I found one day, but then stop, seize a silver tube and splash the page with too bright red. No, this won't do. White strokes give the canvas purpose again. The most difficult part about creating a self-portrait is that everything about you is constantly changing. The ideal self-portrait sits you in a chair and considers the imperfect stitching in your shirt, or the dirt beneath your fingernails, or the way the tangles of your hair reflect the sun as it hits them there in that moment. 3. Outside my window, what were once intangible square shapes with slanted roofs have grown into duplexes, chipped paint faces that throw the cloud-hazed blueness back into my eyes and away from their off-white skin. My neighborhood is now a stage for everyone who feels alone at this early hour to perform small-town dramas about smoke stumbling out of exhaust pipes and yellowing mouths. Now the painter faces a dilemma. Yes, the sky looms over the growing din of passing garbage trucks chewing plastic, but now the expectation of the event has become a critique of itself. Each successive day is glorious, yes, but what were once mornings of arms slipped across the silky skin of another's shoulder are now hourless evenings, worn-down souls that wish to stroll, but only stumble beneath cancer-bent trees, and shivering squirrels that never sleep. 4. The sun appears above the tree line like the lovers you have in your dreams. It's impossible to articulate why you love them. Perhaps it's the way their legs curl against yours when moments before you strode past buildings only your brain remembers, or the suddenness of change, trying to find a something in the depths of branches only to look back and see that everything is gone, but a sloping road and silent street lamps, the grasping hand behind you merely a wind brush. It is not a shock of passion that wakes you from the dream of love. It is a budding consciousness, the slow realization that you fell asleep at your easel, a half-painted you looking back like a dirty window. In the late afternoon, I slip outside to the front lawn to rest in a wooden chair. I remember clinging to this chair at 6 when my action figures gave impromptu speeches with the mouths they didn't have. I do not light a cigarette. But now the sun is too far to yell for, and it's searching the lands behind a tall white fence. 5. But there is something about the tone of the sky. Right now, it's a blue-white streak filled with sound, distant drills and fire truck calls. It's a world that does not know what's coming in the next minute, the next year, or the next golden sky with its pink dripping clouds. A rusty pickup lurches by. Through its window, the radio belches the latest bank collapse, the latest resignation. So I am left to ask, what should be the backdrop for the ideal self-portrait? Do I paint fear, strokes about burning lights and smoldering homes? Do I paint joy, the image of a changing day that whitens the canvas for tomorrow? I don't know. And because of this, I do not paint the sunrise to give it meaning, to craft a voice. I blend the colors of nature every night simply to prove they exist. And when they're gone, I tear out my hair and whisper madly, that was beautiful.
Michael, that was great.
You think so?
I think so. And I think so. It's kind of interesting to hear, like, you always wonder, like, how much does someone's voice evolve over the course of, especially over the course of a fucking decade. What's remarkable to me here, though, is like you currently have, and I've said this before, like a real gift for descriptive language. Like you, I almost said you can paint, but like that's too close to the actual subject matter here, right? But you can portray a landscape or a moment in time with real vividness, now, today. And what's remarkable to me is how good you were at it 10 years ago. Like, what's like incredible about your writing now, what I think is like one of the richest things about your writing now was true then, because there are so many incredibly like vivid images in this poem, right? But I think another thing, like, this is kind of the perfect poem to go back to and read 10 years later, right? Because it's so explicitly about a moment in time and about the passage of time and about trying to capture a moment in time that like it's like the perfect time capsule poem to pop open 10 years later and see how it lines up with the present. It's kind of eerie because so much of it is timeless. Like so many of the images here are of nature or of like suburban life or of things that like do not change, have not changed, that do not like situate this in any specific moment in history, except for that one moment with the radio where they're talking about stuff that seems to me anyway to be very clearly like a function of the like post-recession, like 2011, 2010, 2011 era. And yet even that stuff, like those like hints of like economic collapse are oddly resonant today, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna read one more if that's okay, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut in?
No. I really appreciate your thoughts, but like I was like just digging through because I haven't looked at some of this stuff in years, and yeah, a lot of this was like me getting out of college to absolutely zero fucking job prospects. But yes, I was gonna read one more, which is actually called Economics. Again, I don't think I've read this one aloud. I was definitely smoking a lot of weed back then. So again, apologies if these poems just I don't think really make that much sense. Economics. 1. Right now, the economy is in the sunroom watching mother robins build their nests and balance twigs between their beaks in the trees outside our home. The doctor watches her and I from across the silent kitchen table, our coffee mugs huddled close, cold from neglect. Her hand shakes in my lap. I think about how none of us have the power to kneel beside the wicker chair where the economy watches birds through the dusty window. No one wants to say aloud that the economy is dying. 2. Just after dawn with no sleep, I'm dripping in the steam-blind shower, staring at the splashes of dark blood crawling toward the drain of the faux porcelain sink. A newspaper's ash is huddled by the toilet, headlines fighting for attention, their voices curled around some unformed center. 3. The stock market stops by to see the economy, spending his visit in the TV room, admiring the wall-mounted flat screen, whistling undulating melodies and cracking his long white fingers, and clicking through our local magazines. His replies seem to bounce off the walls, answering his own questions with facts about himself. After he leaves, my wife brings the economy chicken soup with the noodles cut. She says they can be swallowed faster that way, and trains her eyes on the ceiling fan. A few hours later, I find the economy slumped over the side of its bed, spewing broth onto the carpet and staring up at me like a child confused by the concept of God. 4. The doctor shows us x-rays depicting growth, charts of numbers too complex for me to understand. He says it's a sign. I ask if there is anything we can do, and his eyes flicker away like a spent match. Back home, we find the economy in the kitchen, kneading coffee grounds with his shaking palms. I just need a little juice, we hear. My wife takes my hand and begins to cry.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you again. Are you
Yeah, no, that's the poem.
Okay. So that's the having lived through that moment in history, right? I love what you did with it because it makes the economy something personal. And I remember like the way people would talk about like the looming economic despair at the beginning and in the midst of the Great Recession, right, on television. And it was this weird, there was this weird dichotomy, right? where on the one hand, there was all this abstraction about like, you know, the stock market plummeting and banks and institutions having to be bailed out and so on and so forth, all like, and it was all numbers, right? And it was all abstraction. And then on the other hand, there was all the talk about like, well, we may have a whole generation that is never actually employed, and all of the like personal agony shit. And what you've done here is like really married the abstractions about the economy, right, with like the personal like pain and agony of having to live through a period of recession. And you've done it in a completely novel and inventive way, I think, like imagining the economy as this like sick and or dying relative who you're desperately trying to nurse back to health. I don't know. I think it's great. And I mean, just like your previous poem, on one hand, yeah, you can see like that this was the time in which this was written. But also, if you had before reading that told me you wrote it yesterday after paying $12 for a pack of bacon or whatever, I would have believed it, you know? So there's still a timelessness to it. Anyway, both fantastic, Michael.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. So up next is Grapes. Oh wait, Grapes isn't here. I think she dropped at some point. Never mind. We'll circle back to Grapes. Up next is Ayo. Am I saying that right? Ayo, Io,
It's Io, actually.
Io. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. Io.
Oh yeah, no worries. I get that all the time. And I'm going to read one. It's sort of a well, it's a poem, but it's a longer one. I got into writing some long ones, but for a while, but not Iliad long or anything. But here goes. 1,000 Suns. The video begins with scenes of love. The video begins with the tape, reels rolling from a stop. They move in the slow light of the past when months have passed that seem like a lifetime. Watch the signs of their love, the touch of hands, the touch of lips. Watch as they sit side by side with a closeness that could be nothing else. And you are there in that moment, in the world gone white, with the collision of the thousands of neurons that make you, that make her. You are like galaxies colliding, 1,000 suns falling in love, mixing each with the other, never touching, caressing each with the barest waves of gravity, pulling, rending, moving, rearranging like a slow storm. You will not be the same. You are not the same. One morning you wake and she is gone. The light is soft as fog. When you find the note, when she tells you she cannot stay, some things you lose, some things you give away. That she wrote this for you, not just the note, but what was on top of it, what rests between the magnetic reels and the cassette that held the note down. The Walkman is a reassuring rectangle of plastic. Batteries turn the motor that turns the tape. No processors involved, no lines of code. You dug it from a box of old things. Using it brings you back to some point in the past you can't define, even as you can't define the time just passed. Can't define those moments with her that now seem short as pages slip past. Pictures with the illusion of movement. You listen and you hear her words, though you don't understand. You miss her even more, though you feel closer to. The song is a comfort and no comfort. You listen abandoning, for now you're on phone, working switches, pushing reverse and play, listening on the bus, red seats turn blue on the way to work. Even when you put it away, the song replays in your head as if your brain is just as automatic, just as mechanical as the cassette deck itself. Elsewhere, the song is everywhere and she is everywhere, a question you can't answer, a sentence left incomplete. At a show, you try to distract yourself with music you want to forget, but you don't want to forget. Sounds overtake you. You listen to the pounding of the band on the low stage just a few feet away. You watch the singer, black jazz bass in her hands, but you don't hear her voice. You hear that other song in theirs, hear that thread of life running through theirs, everything changing everything else. How could it not? Later, you imagine her and her cousin writing that song in a white room, synthesizers and recording equipment everywhere. You listen to the song as if it will make you understand. You imagine the craft of it, imagine her finding the words, finding the melody. But there is so much you will never understand. You understand loving music, understand the way it makes you feel, but you don't understand its mechanics. You don't know how someone can find a sound and fit it to another. You don't understand the language of music, even if you can hear its beauty. It is spoken in 1,000 ways, but you can only listen. You imagine illiteracy, not just illiteracy, but imagine knowing no way of speaking, no way of making yourself known or knowing anyone else, only hearing, only seeing what others say, hearing the beauty of people's words, never knowing meaning. That is this song for you. You hear her, reach for her, and you try to find moments of insight, but you will never know. The song is only what she has left. It is an echo, a shadow, and perhaps it was all she could say, all she will ever be able to say. Perhaps it is the only way she can give. You rewind the tape, turn it over, push play again. You imagine closing your eyes as if searching for something else, for another song, another verse. The tape speaks to you, hisses a long sound that is no sound. You listen to her song, fall asleep to it, and wait to the hiss of the tape. Something about that sound is a comfort too. It is an ellipsis after her love, after her thoughts. It is after, as now is after. After her, after there is anything to be said. That hiss says there is no why, means she did not hate you, that her feelings did not change, even if she can't explain them or can't explain why she left. You listen in the morning and you don't know what is real. The tape runs and you walk to work, walk as you walked with her, and there she is waiting for you. The months fall in on themselves. Something about morning light, something about her hair. On the screen, the tape stops. The video ends as it began, circle closing, the beginning again. You know the people in the video, friends betraying lovers, love as a metaphor for love. Thank you.
That was absolutely beautiful, man. It was fucking beautiful. You
Thanks.
know, it'd be, you can't really say that a poem is poetic, right? That's redundant, but it's so lyrical. It's so lyrical. It's so beautifully written. And what I really love about this piece, I think, is like the tension between like the material and the immaterial, if that makes any sense. Like there's a moment early on where you basically break both the narrator and their lover down to like clouds of neurons, right? Down to the smallest material component part of consciousness. And you keep doing that throughout, like the moment you get right inside that fucking cassette tape, to the metallic strip, the magnetic strip, right? And to the mechanism that operates the cassette tape. And you keep, like, for a poem that's like about love and obsession, you just keep going down deep, like it's so thematically perfect to keep zeroing in on these small component parts, to keep taking like even physical reality apart, to see how it spins, see how it works. And like that tension there, like between like what you can physically hold, right? And this immaterial thing that's been lost. It's so gorgeously presented in this poem. It's so fucking good, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, yeah, thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you. So Grapes is the only one left who hasn't read, who's on the list. And she's not currently here. So
Is Steven still here?
Steven got
No,
ejected.
he was banned for racism.
Ah,
Stephen could not be patient. Stephen was told, well, if you want to read, you're going to be you can't cut in line, buddy. And he decided he was just going to start fucking reading his poem while I was talking about Riddy's poem. So Stephen,
I'm taking them now.
Yeah, no, it's too bad. I would like to hear what Stephen has to say, as I'm sure it would have been priceless. But Yeah. You know, Zoom needs to have, and maybe I should look into this, a function where you can mute someone and just hold them muted. Um, and then unmute them. The host should have that power. But the weird thing is they give the host the power to mute, but not to unmute, and people can still manually unmute at any time. Because I know there's been a couple of times, and I feel really shitty about this, where I've accidentally muted someone who was reading while trying to mute a troll, and I've had to be like, hey, I'm sorry, I muted you because I don't have the power to unmute them. Anyway, so yeah, Steven's gone. But does anyone else want to read, or are we gonna call it a night here? Nope. Okay. So what
Robert Jordan wants to read.
does Robert Jordan want to? Okay, we'll let Robert Jordan. How much does Robert Jordan want to read?
I don't know. How much do you want him to read?
You can give it a try. Go.
Oh, wait, Adam is here. What? Adam, why don't you read from your book?
Adam.
I
don't
can.
wanna
I have
put-
to go. I'd have to go grab a copy in the other room.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot here. I don't want to
Oh,
force you.
yeah,
to read if you're not
whatever you
feeling
want.
like it, but
I'll do it.
okay. Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
I'm gonna pick a random chapter. I'll be right back.
We've been rescued from Robert Jordan again.
Yep.
If anyone decides that they want to read after Adam, just put something in the chat. I think there's a few people here who haven't read, so yeah.
I won't read a full chapter. I'll just read something short. There's only 3 chapters and it's 250 pages.
Oh, fair enough. Just here, let me know what section it's
Oh,
on.
you have it.
I've got it. Yeah. The sad thing is I still have Rudy's copy too. I haven't seen him since it got here a few weeks ago. So
Okay.
I still have to give Rudy his copy, but yeah.
Do you mind if I take like 1 minute? Is this recorded right now or is this?
We're recording, yeah.
Oh,
It's fine
okay.
if you need some time to find where you want to be.
Sure.
Mhm.
Does somebody else want to go and then I'll go, or is it pretty
I
much?
think you're the only one left at this point. Grapes had said she wanted to read, but then she dropped, so she may be having technical issues.
I could read another really old weed-fueled confusing thing if people want.
Yeah.
Sure. And also, it looks like Jeff has something. So why don't we do Michael and then Jeff, and then we'll circle back to Adam.
Cool. What should I read?
Cool. I've got mine picked out, so I'm ready to go whenever.
Okay, I'll read again. This is another weed-fueled poem. It's called When It Comes. It starts with breathing, my father says, as our feet crackle on the gravel of Lionel's driveway in the darkness. The lake wind raises the grass as if it senses something coming. I see smartphones flash in the shadows. The last finger strokes before we're cramped in a dingy kitchen, looking at 3 weeks of unwashed dishes, empty pizza boxes, a table obscured by faded newspapers and half-empty water glasses. A cat unseen mews between our legs as we move single file down the cramped hallway past a living room's television that's watching its own reruns of hospital dramas. Lionel shaking my father's hand at a bedroom door. Veins bulge in his arm like roots forced to the surface, only to be hidden as he turns to grasp the doorway frame of a darkened bedroom and face the bright green flicker and EKG as it sings an uneven song, then pauses and opens its throat again. I'm not among those who make it through the door. I'm here in the hallway, tracing at the floorboard cracks with my eyes. Sniffles and coughs huddle past the shoulders in front of me. The hallway light, fed by 80-year-old wires, quivers as the beeping loses consciousness. Then a wail, a heavy thud as something held falls to the floor. I feel a hand unknown upon my shoulder, tugging me back into the kitchen, where a mug of coffee is put in my hand. The heat feels real against my face, but I don't drink it, later pouring it into the sink, while my father shakes a few more hands, pressing me gently back into the night. I think of Bones as we cross the gravel, the front lamp of the lake house gleaming like a yellow tooth down the road.
That was fucking fantastic, Michael. I I love the tension in this piece. Oh, sorry, did I interrupt you again? I feel like I may have.
No, that was it.
That was
Okay.
just me saying that was cool.
I love the like tension in this piece between the natural imagery and the like dilapidated, like, human. Human is the wrong word. You know what I'm saying? All the man-made imagery in this poem is so shabby and dilapidated and dark and dirty and decaying, and yet you get those moments of like the natural world outside, like the early image of the wind blowing through the reeds, and then later the way you describe like the man's hand as being like, I'm not sure if you said like branches or like roots, but there's this like amazing thing where you have this like sense of like, I don't know, like just decaying humanity in the midst of a natural world that feels like, I don't know, it's just incredibly vivid and incredibly like emotionally effective, I think.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for reading, man. So I think what we'll do is we'll do Adam, and then Jeff can close us out with his Satanic Panic piece.
I'm happy to go last if Jeff wants to go now too.
Totally up to, it doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me.
You should go, Adam. This is not worthy. Go for it.
Okay. I don't know if mine's worthy, but I'll go. And William, if you wanted to know the page number, I'm doing 228. I know that there's
228.
nothing to link in the chat because it's not online, but so just for very brief background, this is a guy who's at least in his mind, he's on the run. He thinks the entirety of the state trooper office is after him when really they're not. I have beat them for now. The Jag is under a tree in the back of the hotel, and I am eating a bag of deer jerky on a bed stripped of its comforter and a Super 8. Half a Subway sandwich is in the mini fridge, along with a 6-pack of Bud and a fifth of whiskey and a gallon of gin, sluicing the worries. On top of the fridge are 2 bottles of cheap red wine. One of the labels depicts a skull, the other a rooster. I am dandling the lock of hair from Octavia, which village is now hundreds of miles distant. I do not know the name of the current town, though I do know that it ends in a vowel and that it had a mayor who was arrested for drinking gasoline and hiding cameras in high school locker rooms. I learned the same from the good-natured boy at the hotel desk. He was glad for the stranger in the horsehair wig and rouge. No doubt his self-esteem was often made to suffer in that small community. We had a date in my motel room at 10 sharp, where and when we watched television together on the bed. He admitted he was the only gay in town. His down hours were spent drinking and reading Rimbaud under a slut lamp with Skag Jones. He had a voice like a man I'd seen on the YouTube named Steve-O. I plundered his throat with my cock to try to drop him from a soprano queer to a tenor survival. We drank gin and water, and he went off to score meth, and I am waiting his return. Yes, as I write this. Later yet, he never came back. Morning, packing up, the clerk never showed. My eyes contain a yellow earth pigment resonant with cirrhosis and gallstones. The jerky gin shit I am leaving in the nightstand is a crime tantamount to murder. I left a note for the clerk thanking him for the night. Someone should cut off my head. No more than one night in one place. Have to move on. The troopers are on me like flies on shit, and I am informed by the madman's extrasensory perception that troopers Cottonmouth and Blacklegs are checking the motel registries and leaving their autographs in squid ink on the backsides of maids. They even took over a motel in the charming city of Lunesk. Like bedlamites, the troopers from the immediate and surrounding counties focalized on the place and set up shop. The motel was divided between whoring and dope dealing, and the main office was converted into a war chest to defend the place. 8x10 photographs of Trooper Cottonmouth and Trooper Blacklegs were installed in the main office like the president and vice president in any military or civilian installation of government. The cabal against Trooper Blacklegs was killed off by a swarm of flesh-eating locusts controlled by the darker side of Trooper Cottonmouth's split personality. The troopers left over to run the motel committed vile sex acts in the direction of the framed photographs 5 times a day while singing the synth pop version of Puttin' on the Ritz in baritone as a pledge of their allegiance to the new divines. When the bath salt and dextro supplies were out, the troopers abandoned their motel and returned to Hades. That is, except for Troopers Cottonmouth and Blacklegs. They pursue me yet. They each of them have a blasting cap around their neck as on a chain to remember Trooper Cocksuck by, and they have made it their life's work to catch and torture me. I am the ewe lamb, the sought-after goose. They have the green light to run me through. The governor of the state has put a bounty on my head and asked all the public to go to dinner and pray for my capture over meatloaf and potatoes. My governor, my sovereign, all in for a dig. He even held a public mass in the village of Grapeshot with the Archbishop of Antifreeze and his bosom buddies to reinforce the public sentiment against me. They have conspired to hunt and kill me and have multiplied the bounty by tens, and the troopers are fucking vicious and greedy and eager to make a claim on the bounty. At present, the reward could supply Hades with enough bath salt and dextro to last an eternity, and they know it. They are pursuing me like a holy grail with death pledges. Like burnt out dope fiends, they rough ride over corpses and spit vapors of hate in the direction of fresh graves. The Archbishop himself has broken from the papacy and written a fresh bull on the year of the Jubilee, and he declared a holy war against me that spans from Christmas to Christmas. And he even kissed the toe of Trooper Cottonmouth and ordered all subordinates within the realm of the bishopric to certify themselves as breath test operators. To play the sedulous ape, the whole church has joined the troopers and sworn oaths to uphold the Constitution. And once the minced oaths were made, the troopers got the bishops hooked on bath salts and dextro in a synthetic crystal called flocka the troopers are trafficking in from China. And the bishops go fucking crazy for it since it shoots their vitals through the ceiling and gives them superhuman strength. Enough strength to think they can survive in Hades. But that place is reserved for troopers only. Poor Bishop Jacklip, he tried to make it in Hades, but didn't even survive 3 hours before the members of the Hades Association for the celebration of the memory of Trooper Cocksuck formed a mob and cut his dick off and left him to bleed out and stole his mitre and ran the dick and hat up the flagpole to the cheers of the crowd. But that was before the 20 blank Trooper Bishop Alliance. And to make amends for the murdered bishop, the troopers supplied the Archbishop with a 10-ton delivery of bath salts as blood-wit restitution. From that day hence, the troopers and bishops have hunted me unreservedly and without dissent among their ranks. They filled churches and prisons from here to Timbuktu, and they have made Puttin' on the Ritz their anthem in memory of the time they took over the motel. It is like their Alamo. The wanton brutes, like fire ants, they seek and destroy, but unlike fire ants, they smoke meth and rape and pillage for sport. Every trooper and bishop indoctrinated after the alliance of 20 blank has an armband with an image of Taco Oakhurst and Trooper Cocksuck fucking in the position of reverse jackhammer. And they are both smiling out from the patch, and it is usually the last smiles any member of the public sees before Trooper so-and-so fills them with buckshot for driving over the legal limit. The troopers are trained killers. It is with comforting glee that they send drunks to the astral spirits, no doubt about it. The troopers are twice as savage since they allied with the bishops to find and kill me. There are bouts in Hades per mensum, where the troopers and bishops meet to strike Dutch bargains on policies and best practices. A giant coliseum was erected without public notice and comment in the nameless capital where the blood-soaked death matches unfurl. To arrive at the coliseum, one must trek over 1 league of open fields where atheists are shot in foxholes by city clerks and friends of the court. This measure was deemed necessary by the government in Hades, which consists of a single commandant of the troopers who smokes bath salts and beats off to negligent indecency. His bi-weekly column Smut and Nothing But is mandatory reading, and the laws require that it be posted above and below every restroom sign directing employees to wash hands. On his first visit, the Archbishop commented favorably on the dead atheists and holes. The Colosseum itself is a spectacle, magnificent really. Architects stolen from the finest cities on earth were sequestered for months on its design and then given the perquisite of being the first gladiators to kill each other off to the fanfare of bebadged spectators. The commandant has a box seat where he sits baron and femme. The Archbishop of Antifreeze also has a box where he disports among his male harem. The gladiators consist exclusively of those unfortunate souls who drop out of trooper school and are fed to each other. They are given forced flocka injections and put into monstrous drag before the bouts. With no weapons dispensed or allowed, many of the contenders resort to taking off their glazed pumps and beating each other to death with them. The last living among them is given a $3 bill, thanked for his time, and is swiftly drowned in a pit of molasses and vinegar. These feats being seen through, it is customary for the commandant and the archbishop to play tennis in private over iced tea. I'll stop there.
So Adam, I think this is actually from the part of the book, correct me if I'm wrong, that we published, I don't know, maybe well over a year ago now on misery tourism. Is that right? I'm pretty sure.
I had taken a section from this book and created a short story. So yeah, that's true. Before this book was out. Yep.
And I loved it then, and I love it now. The the fucking inventive perversity of this entire section is beautiful. I love the names. I love the various troopers and archbishops, and just the like sheer degree of absolutely unhinged, insane detail present here. Like, you can tell that the narrator has left the bounds of sanity behind completely, but has done so in a way that has led them to create this world that is so rich and vivid in its complete depravity that, oh man, it's fucking wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thanks.
Yeah, actually, I didn't expect it to remind me of like, because of the inventive perversity that William was talking about, where it gets very detailed about like the structure of the enemy and how they operate. I didn't expect it to remind me of like texts like about like the witch hunt in the Middle Ages, like the witch's Sabbath and all that stuff, where like they'll get really intense and like into the details about all the demons and like what the rituals like involve. And it like, you can tell it's kind of like blending into like a fantasy, like often a sexual fantasy, but it's just like just because it gets really intense and detailed and paranoid. Like, I don't know, I didn't expect it to like feel like that.
Yeah, it has this kind of like mythic historical quality to it, right? I was thinking of ancient Rome while he was reading too, like all of the like, because history is like full of these fucking like bizarre perversions and atrocities, right? And like the way it's framed, it becomes like mythic in scope. It like transcends the moment. Sorry, Rudy, I'm talking over you, man.
It's very demonic, and like the Malleus Maleficarum, I think, is one of those witch hunting texts. Like, yeah, it's very like, but it's demonic, but at the same time, like, feels like it follows a strict set of rules, like, or legal, almost legalistic. So like, it's really wild, man. It's crazy. I love it.
Thank you all. I appreciate the chance to read. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. So, Jeff, you want to close out the night for us with your, speaking of Satanism, we've got some satanic panic shit, huh?
I was gonna say, I think Mullane has a werewolf excerpt to read after, Jeff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Adam, I'm definitely checking out that book, man. I didn't know it was already published, but I'm definitely gonna track that down. It was amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna try to. I don't want pity, but I have 3 kids. I work 50 hours a week, and I just had my first colonoscopy this week. So, in my downtime, I'm writing a book, and I've been researching a lot of, the satanic panic stuff. So when I was about 14, my uncle, who's like a Jew for Jesus guy, intervened and said I should pick up this book here. I don't know if you guys can see this well.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this one? But it's by Bob Larson, who Bob Larson is the president of Bob Larson Ministries in Denver, Colorado. So this is a book written to kind of warn parents about, satanic music. And let me just give a little preface here. The Glossary of Rock performers. Just when a parent thinks he vaguely understands the rock scene, teenagers employ their favorite tactic. Why can't I listen to such and such rock group? They aren't homosexuals. They don't use drugs, and they don't sing about sex. Can I buy one of their albums? What can a parent do? You've probably never heard of the group in question and have no idea if it's offensive or acceptable. You may believe there's no way to stay sufficiently informed to guide your children. You don't want to be unreasonably restrictive, but neither do you want to expose your family to immorality. The following glossary of rock music performers was compiled with this dilemma in mind. It would be impossible to include every band on the charts, only the better known groups. So let me go to my favorite artist in the glossary of rock performers and read that real quick. Stevie Nicks. Before each concert, the backstage dressing room of Fleetwood Mac are stocked with spare ribs, fresh limes, Blue Nun white wine, cognac, and bottles of Dom Perignon. Their contracts demand such symbols of rock power. You can go your own way, they once declared to Mac fans, and each group member has done just that. Bass guitarist John McVie, to a drug bust in his Hawaiian paradise home. Mick Fleetwood to Ghana, Africa, to record budding native musicians, and Stevie Nicks, Christine McVie, and Lindsey Buckingham to solo careers. Stevie Nicks has also ventured into intense explorations of the occult. Stevie admits believing in spirits, confessing that Halloween is her favorite night of the year, dabbles in certain reincarnation philosophy, wants to talk to a ghost, and expresses a desire to build her own pyramid and live in a witch house. The idea for the cover of her solo album, Belladonna, came to her in a dream. It featured a crystal ball endorsing divination, a tambourine symbolizing the porthole to perception to the spirit world, and 3 roses representing the power of pyramids. The Belladonna album credits list Maya Design Studios for clothing assistants. Maya is a name for the Hindu goddess Devi, who represents the illusory nature of the material world. Belladonna is also the name of a powerful poison, an interesting word choice that forewarns in the title cut, Belladonna, sort of captures your soul. No wonder Rolling Stone called her Fleetwood Mac's blonde priestess of the occult. Watch out, kids.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Jeff. So I don't know if I've talked about this at all, but I think I grew up in a pretty Christian home, right? And my mom had Christian radio on all the time, even though like she was raised Catholic and we were nominally Catholic. It was always this evangelical Christian radio playing like from morning to night, like from when she woke up to when we went to bed at night. And that unique kind of paranoia, right? Oh my God, that took me back. Like the associational way that it's like, well, like the way in which nothing is everything is literal, right? Nothing is figurative, nothing is representational, nothing is abstracted, nothing stands in for another thing, nothing is purely aesthetic, but everything is spiritual and everything has only spiritual significance. And oh my God, it's so fucking funny. It's so hilarious. Like, oh, thank you, Jeff. That's fucking awesome.
First of all, thank you, brother Jeff, for that illumination of the spiritual warfare. That's no, that was great. Like that type of ministry. Like I think I've actually heard of Bob Larson, in some context. I don't know if I was looking at Satanic Panic shit or whatever, but it like some of the shit from that era is fucking amazing, and it carried over at least until like the 90s, because I remember going to a Wesleyan church, and there were the pastor and in Sunday school they were discussing RPG games like Dungeons and Dragons, and they were discussing how they were selling more and more, and like they were basically selling kids' souls into like to Satan basically. I remember having a friend in high school, and I invited him to play D&D with William. William was playing D&D, and I invited this kid, and he said, "No, I'm not." He said, "Frankly, that's satanic." And like I was like, "Oh wow, like that's a thing that like happens." So yeah, I mean,
and how absurd was that? Our souls weren't damaged at all.
Not at all.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. So Melaine, you want to share some witch trial shit? What is this?
No, it's not. It's kind of around the same time, but he's not a witch. He's a werewolf, and he's about 83 years old. It's an actual court record from the 1600s. He lives like in Livonia, which is this distant, I forget where it is today, but like it's borders on Germany, and it's like bumfuck nowhere. It sounds like the town's pretty pagan still, or when he was a kid, it was like still pagan. One of those like not much changes out there type of places. And he's just explaining to the judge like why he's being like the charge is theft. I'm just gonna start reading it. Okay. Old Theus was charged accordingly after hearing the other witnesses giving this testimony with reproaches, and he freely admitted that he had previously been a werewolf. However, he had given it up again after a time, and truly, that was about 10 years ago. He further reported that this had already come up in the case at Nittau, where Herr Baron Krostern, Herr Rosenthal, and Kolick were still judges regarding the time Skystan, a peasant from Lemberg who had recently died, broke Theus's nose when he was carrying back the grain blossoms that Skystan widowed in hell in order to take away the growth of the grain. But the aforementioned judges in the case did nothing to him. Rather, they only laughed at it, and as Skystan did not appear, they let him go free again. A broader inquiry was asked about him. Was Theus always in good health and with his wits about him? Had he not been, and was he not still, somewhat mad? Whereupon, in addition to the others present who knew Theus well, the substitute Herr District Court Judge Bengt Johann Ackerstaff, on whose estate Theus had lived and worked for several years, declared that he understood his health never to have failed him, also that he never lied about such things, and when the aforementioned judges did nothing and let him go free in the earlier case, he was idolized by the peasants. He was asked this: in what place and at what time had Skystan struck him, and with what? In hell, with a broomstick on which a horsetail was tied. The Herr presiding judge testified that at that time Theus's nose was injured. How did the witness come to hell? Question: how did the witness come to hell, and where is that located? The werewolves answer: the werewolves go thither on foot in wolf form to the place at the end of the lake called Puer Esser, in a swamp below Lemberg, about a half mile from Kleigenberg, the estate of the substitute heir presiding judge. There were lordly chambers and commissioned doorkeepers who stoutly resist those who want to take back the grain blossoms and the grain the sorcerers brought there. The grain blossoms were guarded in a special container and the grain in another. Question: which form do they assume when they transform themselves into wolves? They have a wolf pelt, which only they put on. He had it from a peasant of Marienburg who came from Riga, and he turned it over to a peasant from Ala a few years ago. But in response to a question, he would not name either of them. And when a special inquiry was made, he changed his story and said they just went into the bush and took off their normal clothes and immediately changed into wolves. They ran around as wolves and seized whatever horses and livestock fell to them. But he had taken no large animals, only lambs, kids, piglets, and the like. But in the area of Sedgewold, there was a farmhand named Tieremann, now dead, and he was truly extraordinary. The witness was nothing compared to him, as one person is given more power than another by the devil, and that man had taken such large animals as presented themselves, including fattened pigs, and he carried these off from the farm. And then he feasted with his company, as 20 or 30 of them often came together along the road, roasted the animals, and devoured a huge amount. Question: how did they get fire and tools there? Answer: they took fire from the farmstead and made spits out of wood. They took a cauldron from the farmstead and singed the hair off the animals. They eat nothing raw. Question: did the witness often take part in such meals and find himself at banquets? Answer: yes. And so what? Question: what happened to the small animals he had taken? Answer: they had also consumed. Q: if they were transformed into wolves, why didn't they eat meat raw as wolves do? A: that wasn't the way. Rather, they eat it like men, roasted. Q: how could they handle things if, according to this testimony, they had wolves' heads and paws? With what could they hold knives, prepare the food, or use other tools to accomplish their work? Answer: they used no knives, but tore pieces off with their teeth, and with their paws they stuck the pieces on spits that they found. And when they consumed the meat, they had already turned back into men, but they made no use of bread. They took salt with them from the farmstead as they departed. Question: did they fully sate themselves, and did the devil eat with them? Answer: he affirms the first point and denies the second. But the sorcerers eat with the devil in hell. The werewolves were not admitted there with them. Nevertheless, they sometimes quickly run in and snatch something, then run back with it as if fleeing. If they are caught, the guards appointed by the devil strike them with long iron goads they call canes, and they hunt them down as if they were dogs, for the devil can't stand them. Ne eretz in the Latvian idiom. Oh, he was Latvian. If the devil can't bear them, why do they become werewolves and run into hell? Answer: it happens for this reason, that they thereby might drag out of hell the things the sorcerers brought there, animals, grain, and other produce. In the previous year, he and the others had delayed, and they did not come into hell at the right time when the gates were still open, so they couldn't carry up the grain blossoms and the grain the sorcerers had taken inside. And we had a bad year for grain. But this year, he and the others did the right things at the proper time. The witness himself brought out of hell as much barley, oats, and rye as he could carry. Therefore, this year we have all kinds of grains in abundance, although more oats than barley. Q: when do such things take place? On St. Lucia's Eve, before Christmas. How often in the year do they go into hell together? Ordinarily thrice: Pentecost Eve, St. John's Eve, and St. Lucia's Eve. The first two are not always exactly on these nights, but when the grain is blossoming. Then, and at that time of sowing, the sorcerers carry up the yield obtained by God's grace, and thereafter carry it into hell. So the werewolves work hard to bring it back. Who was with him in this company the last St. Lucia's Eve? They came from many places, those from Rodenpeisk and Sunzel together. Who knew them all or asked after their names? There were different bands. Before this, Skysten Rhine, son of the above-mentioned Skystan, had been in his band. but now he didn't see him there and he didn't know how that happened. To a question regarding the men of Jürgensburg, today's Genupils, he said, those of Jürgensburg must belong to another band, for one finds few of them in his band. How could the witness say that on last Lucia's Eve, they had already brought back this year's prosperity from hell, which the sorcerers had taken there, since the sowing and blossoming time was now just approaching, and thus nothing could yet be harvested? Answer: the sorcerers had their own special time, and the devil had already sowed long before. Thereafter, the sorcerers took something from that and brought it to hell, and this was the prosperity the werewolves carried back out of hell. And subsequently, much growth followed from our seed, just as rich fruit was obtained from the trees, which was also taken from hell, as was good fishing. Already since Crispus, there was perfectly verdant grain of all sorts, and trees whose growth similarly came from hell. Since they also brought a lot of fish back from the sorcerers last St. Lucia's Eve, one could hope for better fishing this year. Nevertheless, if the sorcerers also took the grain blossoms and took them to hell, they would have nothing to work with except what was sown and grew in hell. Question: whenever they go to other feasts at that place in hell, do they find such buildings, and do the same ones consistently stay there? Answer: yes. How is it that the other people who dwell nearby can't also see this? It's not on top but under the earth, and the entrance is protected by a gate that no one can find except someone who belongs inside. Weren't there women and girls among the werewolves? Also, were Germans found among them? Answer: women were were certainly among the werewolves, but girls were not. Rather, they were of use to the flying sprites or dragons and were sent out to take away the yield of milk and butter. The Germans don't join their company. Rather, they have a special hell of their own. Question: where do the werewolves go after death? They are buried like other people, and their souls come to heaven, but the devil takes the sorcerer's souls for himself. Is the witness diligent towards the church? Does he listen faithfully to the word of God? Does he pray diligently? And does he take the Lord's Supper? Answer: no, he does neither the one nor the other. How can the soul of someone who does not serve God but the devil, and who does not go to church, seldom to confession, and does not take the Lord's Supper, as the witness admitted of himself, ever come to God? The werewolves do not serve the devil, for they take away from him that which the sorcerers brought to him. And for that reason, the devil is so hostile to them that he cannot bear them. Rather, he has them driven off with iron goads as if they were dogs, for the werewolves are God's hounds. But the sorcerers serve the devil and do everything according to his will. Therefore, their souls belong to him. Everything the werewolves do profits people best. For if they didn't exist and the devil made off with the prosperity, robbed or stole it, all the world's prosperity would depart. And the witness confirmed this with an oath, adding that in the preceding year, the Russian werewolves came earlier and recovered the prosperity of their land. Therefore, they had good growth in their land, while that of this land failed, for they had come too late on this side. But this year they came before the Russians, and thus it was a fruitful year and good for flax. And why should God not accept his soul, even if he didn't go to church or take the Lord's Supper? For in his youth, he was not properly instructed in this. I could keep going. Like, I'm just going to call it here, unless you guys want me to keep going.
Oh my God. That is fucking, that's wild. Like, what I find, like, first of all, it's hilarious as shit to listen to this, because it's like, it's like almost like on the cusp of being real, like, parody and satire. Like, if you told me you were reading from like a What We Do in the Shadows, like, fan script or something, I would believe it, right? Because it almost reads like satire of this. But what I love about it is, even at that moment in history, the guy doing the questioning is obviously skeptical as fuck. He obviously doesn't believe a word of this, and he's trying to pin this guy down and get him to admit that he's full of shit. And the guy just keeps concocting more and more absurd and bizarre explanations for things. It's so funny. And I love the Germans have a special hell of their own.
Oh man, that account it's so fucking ridiculous and good. But what it reminds me of, like the actual legal proceeding reminds me of what I find really terrible about story games like Burning Wheel. And that's that everything is fucking quantified like meticulously. Like this reads like an actual play of people, like a world building session of Burning Wheel. Like 4 players just sitting around asking shit like, well, how much grain could they carry back? Like, where do the sorcerers keep the grain? Like, what percentage of the sorcerers are women or whatever? Like, who gives a shit? Like, you're talking about hell here. Like, you know, what spells are they casting? What does hell look like? Like, it's
Oh my god.
But they're fixating on like the
Oh my god. It is exactly like it really is. It's exactly like or even like a D&D session that has gone wrong and has like a really pedantic asshole at the table or something. No, that's fucking phenomenal, Mullane. Okay, I gotta call it here because I have to run to the bathroom pretty desperately. And so I think we're gonna call it there. I am gonna leave, as always. I'm gonna leave the Zoom meeting open for people to hang out with and shit afterwards. But if you're watching this at home, well, of course you're at fucking home. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, we do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and share their work with us. Anyone is welcome to come and just hang out, just lurk, just listen. We tweet out the link to the Zoom meeting a few minutes before we get started from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism. Okay, thank you to everyone who's read. It's been a great night. When we started up tonight, only Rudy had signed up to read. And I think we ended up having, I don't know, probably like 10 different readings. So that's fucking awesome. Thank you guys. Okay, I have to run. Yeah, fuck it. That's it.